Welcome! Thank you so much for joining this Blick Art Materials demo. My name is Whitney, and today we will be making transfer prints, specifically a gel transfer print. And before we get into the whole process and our materials, I want to talk about the canvases we have and the differences in our different lines of canvases. So first I have the lovely Blick Premier Professional Canvas, and this is a Blick Studio canvas. And that refers to, the studio label, refers to its profile here. It has a nice thin profile. This is 3/4 of an inch. And obviously they come in many different dimensions, but that thickness is what stays the same. And we do also offer a Blick Super Value Pack where you get 12 8x8s. The number that you get in each pack depends on the size that you're looking at. But you get a ton of canvases, a really great value. And those also have that very thin profile. Hopefully you can see the difference there. I'm not just holding up one really insane canvas here. Cube canvas would be fun though. Next up, I have a Blick Studio gallery profile. So we've moved out of a traditional profile, and now we're in that nice thick gallery profile. This is 1 3/4 of an inch, so a little bit more than double the size of a traditional canvas. And the reason for that is in a gallery setting and in museum settings, especially with modern work, you want that depth. You want it to stand off the wall a little bit. And taking that to the extreme, we have this lovely museum profile. This is my personal favorite because there's just so much dimension to it. And the reason I'm talking about all these canvases is one, because I love our canvases, of course, but we're going to be playing with some depth in this process. I've set it up, and we have templates on our bundle page for you to use, but I have set this up as a triptych, which means there are 3 paintings that are all meant to be one unit. And for that, I thought it would be fun to play with the depth of each one. And it really brings to life a gallery wall, I would think, or even when they're on their own, of course. And it adds that extra bit of dimension. Let me just put this one away here. I'm going to be making a transfer print on our 8x8. Let me get my hair out of the way. All right, I'm going to be making a transfer print on our 8x8. And it is a nice sort of handheld size, I think. All right. Let's get all that packaging off. And my lovely 8x8. Don't need my silica packet. Okay, so to get started, you need your canvas, and you can start with a toned base, and I'll show you an example of that later on. And to do the gel transfer, I am using Mod Podge. Now, this is the Mod Podge matte. There's also a Mod Podge gloss. In fact, there's more Mod Podges than I could ever even relay to you, probably by memory. They really have an extensive line, but for this project, I really wanted to stick with the matte or the gloss, and not to get into any sort of specific mediums, like they have beautiful sparkle medium, things like that. That's not for this process. But I'm gonna give it a good shake. And I like to just pour directly onto the canvas. And notice it's quite a little pour there. I've got a lot of medium on my canvas. It's nice to have paper towels around, especially for this process where we're basically working with a glue base. Things can get a little messy. I'm going to use a palette knife to spread this out. And it can really be any shape or size. I like this thicker sort of spatula kind of version. And because I get a lot of coverage, I can really spread that out. I can see a little goop in there that I'm just going to pull out. And it happens. Many of us have pets at home, and you are going to have to watch this with them because their hair, it's like a magnet, and it is going to find its way into your medium here. So be on the lookout. Notice I'm spreading it right to the edge. I wouldn't necessarily have to because I know my image isn't going to the edge, but I want a nice smooth sort of all over surface. All right. All right, now I'm going to just sort of gently pulling this across the surface. I'm not sure if this, yeah, this shows up on camera. You can see these little divots or pockets. There's a little one right here. And that is what we want to avoid. Show you some examples of when that wasn't avoided later on. Okay. Next up, I have a foam brush here. It's just a little bit damp, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm not pressing, I'm not really even pulling paint. I'm just sort of going to touch, graze, and I can see that little hair. All right. I'm a perfectionist, so I'm gonna stop myself, but if you are like me, and those little hairs drive you crazy, I understand. It's okay though, they don't really show up in the end, and you can always cover them up if they really do. Set that aside. I'm gonna let this sort of level for a moment, and I'm going to talk about the print that we're using. So as I mentioned, we have free templates on the bundle page. You can find that in a link in the description, and those are on our website, free for you to use. Of course, you can choose any image you want outside of that as well. But I chose a moon because I've been seeing a lot of really fun space-themed things around as of late, and it's just sort of out there. Trending in social media, and I thought it would be a really fun addition to my home decoration even. Notice I am cutting all the way to the edge, and this is very, very important. So a lot of things can be substituted in projects. However, how I printed my lovely moon is not something that can be substituted. It needs to be a laser printed copy. Hands down. So there are two different kinds of printers around currently, laser printers and inkjet printers. And an inkjet prints a lot like it sounds. There's ink, it jets, and prints the paper. Now, what happens is with this process, however, is it washes away in our next step. I actually have an example here. Now, this is one where I actually got my printouts mixed up, and I didn't realize until the end that this is one that I printed from my home printer, and it is most certainly an inkjet. Most laser printers are going to be your larger fax copiers, office printers, and there are, of course, some home models. If you don't have one, or if you're not sure what kind of printer you have, definitely do some research, look that up online, and you can always source out an office print work sort of shop to have that done. But here you can see it didn't work out so well. And I really, really love sharing the things that didn't work out because ultimately my job, I think, in my mind, is to make a whole lot of mistakes when I make all these examples. So then I can share them and hopefully impart some wisdom and you guys don't make the same mistakes that I make. So for this, you can see this really big hole here. That is what would have happened if I continued to rub this off. Might be jumping a bit ahead. That's going to be our next step. But you can see, obviously, no printing right here. You're going to just wash away all your ink and have to start over again. All right, so just to repeat that, because it's so very important. Laser printed copy. And I'm just going to place this right on here now. I've given it a little time to level itself out. Looks pretty good to me. And I'm just going to center it right here and just do a few taps. And I want to be gentle at this moment because, again, in an effort to show you some tips and tricks here, here's an example. And now I am in love with how it turned out and these strange lines that go through my moon. But that happened because I used my tool here to try to press that paper down. And I ended up pressing a little too hard and I actually made pockets where how shall I put it? Basically, I pushed the medium away from it. And I almost etched that in there. So you want to avoid that. Just sort of tap it down at first, let it settle a little bit, come back in maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then give it more of a firm pressing. So here, I probably haven't talked long enough, but just a little bit of a more firm pressing. If it settled in a bit more, it wouldn't move around on me, but that's okay. You can always check up on it throughout the day. It's going to need a good amount of time to dry. Of course, you can just put it off to the side, forget about it, come back to it in a week, and it should be just fine. But if you're like me and you like to sort of fiddle with your projects, you can always come and check on it and give it some good firm pressings. I think it helps, and it certainly won't hurt. Let me put this aside. And I have one here that is dry. Okay, so this is actually, it's been quite humid recently, so this took even a little bit longer than overnight, and you want that thick layer to really absorb the ink. So it takes some time to dry. This took about 3 days in total to dry. And the fun part. There's some warm water here. It can be cool. I just prefer putting my hands in slightly warm water. It's artist choice. Another important thing, though, going to take off my rings. And I am mentioning this because you will also want to take off any rings or anything that could really, bracelets, anything you think might accidentally snag or scratch the surface while you're working. And to start, I'm just gonna wet the paper. I always think it looks really fun seeing how the water absorbs, actually. It's a bit silly, but it makes fun patterns. Okay. So I've got a nice layer of water, and it's gonna work into the paper. And find a spot. Because this image is so small, it's not tiny, but it's workable within one hand. I did go ahead and wet out the whole image. If you're using a larger piece, you might want to start from one side and work your way to the other. And as you can see, it takes a bit of patience to get started, but once it starts going, it really adds up. I almost think of this as, you know, removing price stickers from books. Those drive me crazy, those barcode stickers on a paperback. And it's sort of the same idea, just like when removing those, the sort of sticky adhesive will ball up and stick to itself and you can eventually get it all off. That same process applies here. As more paper comes off, it's almost like a snowball effect. They're gonna get those little wads, they're gonna wanna come together. And really, once as you get an area going, you can start to be a bit more aggressive with it. So I'm going to keep working on this here for a moment. So I'd like you to see the image revealed. Bear with me. I will note, again, if you're doing this as a larger piece, eventually it will start to get to your fingers. You'll want to use maybe a terry cloth or a dish towel. But be very, very gentle in the beginning, because that's when you can sort of scratch and peel and have an example here be referred to as like a slippage. Which one? This one. Where it's not that the transfer print didn't work, but it can happen when you're a little too aggressive with removal. I took a little bite out of my moon here in a few places. And I really think that's fine. I think part of this kind of image transfer process is that it almost provides the artist with like an instant antiquing of the image. And so it might have some imperfections, but I think that really is what characterizes this process. Okay, so you can see working in a few sessions, short sessions, to remove these pieces. Give it another little go. All right, so I would keep going at that a little bit longer. You can see there's a spot over here that's pretty thick. Oh, that's what happens when you get aggressive. So that was actually the slippage that I just pulled that piece over for you to see. Hopefully I had this in view and you got to see what I did there. Awesome. I like when I make mistakes on camera as well, because now you know how that happens. Try to speed it up, and it's not a process to speed up. Okay, so here is one that I've actually done this to. So let me bring this back over. Getting ahead of myself. So this one, it looks pretty clear. It's looking clearer. I cleared it off. And honestly, I am not above putting these under the sink. Just a little bit to help wash away those little bits. And actually that can help with the slippage problem too, because you're not going to scrape it. But you can see how this one's fairly clear. And this looked even clearer than that when it was still wet, because the water is going to make your paper pulp translucent. But now it's dry and it looks like I didn't do anything. And it's really cloudy and does not look like a transfer print yet. Don't be discouraged. It really, the image is under there. It just means you have a little bit more to go. Now, since we've already started this, it's already had a good rubbing. Now I'm going to use a cloth on it. And I'm actually using a piece of cut felt, just a piece of white felt, regular kids craft felt, nothing special about it. You could also use, again, a clean dish towel, a clean washcloth. Do make sure it is clean and not something that is going to transfer color onto your image. Might sound a little silly, but many of my dishcloths are covered in Blick liquid watercolor, and that would transfer color to this. Okay, so as you can see, my print was under there. After all, it's not cloudy. In fact, oops, didn't mean to push it out of view. In fact, there's a lot of depth there of color. Well, grayscale, a depth of grayscale, and some really beautiful little details have popped out. I can see little craters now, big craters. Yeah, so I would set that aside. I would let it dry again, come back in an hour, check on it. If it's gone hazy, again, don't disparage. Just grab another cloth, some warm water. It just needs another rinse off. For most of these up here, I actually did that process 3 times. It varies. Okay, so as I was saying, I like to share mistakes so you all don't make mistakes. I also think the word mistake probably isn't even accurate, because you can do a lot of fun stuff with mistakes, right? Things can be altered and changed, and projects can just keep going on. But call them mix-ups. I don't know. I'll come up with a better word for the next video. So here I spoke in the beginning about an example on a toned canvas, and I used Utrecht Artist acrylic colors, and this is the permanent silver. And the order of operations here kind of doesn't matter. I painted the whole surface silver. If you're looking to conserve paint and you have a steady hand and feel fine going around that edge, by all means, it can be done afterwards as well. In fact, a few of these I think I cleaned up with white paint even. after they were printed. Oh, I wasn't done with this one yet. You can also see there are some of those little pockets, and that's a good one. And I have some here too, where I got aggressive with my painting or my print, I should say, and I peeled a little piece off. Now, if it bothers you, I have some tips. So first off, if it's small, especially like these little ones over here, I can just take a soft pencil. Am I centered there? I want to make sure we can see. Okay. So I'm just going to take a soft pencil and fill in. And you want to really get in the grooves of the canvas. Give it a nice little rub. Shade. There we go. Shade that in a little bit, and then you can tone it down with an eraser if you need to, but it'll help conceal any really stark differences that you find unpleasant. Another trick would be, and for this one here, this piece is a little bit too large to do that. So what I would do is I would make another print out. I would make another, not inkjet print, another laser print. When words escape. I would make another laser print, and I would find that spot on my other print. I have one here. It's a little smaller, actually. But I would find that exact spot. And it looks like, and these do reverse, so sometimes it's confusing. That would go there. It's going to be around here somewhere. So I would cut that out, and I would reapply my Mod Podge, press down, try to line it up, and that would correct that mistake. So that is how you can fill larger gaps in a print. I'm not sure if I have that going the right way or not. Nope. Okay, what other tips and tricks did I have? I know there's something else. I need to look at my table. I might need to ask my friend Tessa. I think that might be it. No worries. I think actually that's pretty much it. This is I don't want to say it's a no-brainer project, because of course it's going to take brain power, and of course it's comes with its own things that you need to know, right? Like how I scratched this one on accident, and how to not accidentally peel off the image or create slippage. Things like that happen. But it's a very straightforward process. The gel medium, the Mod Podge, which is a kind of a gel medium, right? It is going to absorb the ink and hold it on the canvas for you. And really all you're doing is pulling away the paper that has concealed that image. It's pretty straightforward. And it doesn't really require a lot at all. All you need is a canvas, a laser printed copy, and some Mod Podge. Even the tools I'm using here, palette knives, it doesn't require a specific kind. So you can make some substitutions there. You can use what you have in your studio, which I really love projects where I can use what I already have. But it also gives you a nice range where you can make additions. You could choose to paint on this as well. and the imagery can have such variety. Of course, I've given you the templates here for the moon, and those are on our bundle page, but you can choose any image you want, and any size canvas you want, or even surface. These are beautiful on wood as well. I mean, you could even do this on a wall, right on the wall. Actually just thought of that now. That would be so cool. If anyone does, please post it on our community page. I would love to see that. And I might have a new project for myself now. But you can really, it's a technique that you can use for a lot of things and expand to suit your needs. So I really, really hope you've had fun watching, and I hope you enjoy making your very, very own transfer print.